Welcome back to the channel and what is easily the most highly requested video I've ever had on my channel ever. I heard you guys say that you wanted a keyword video. I am here with the best keyword video you're ever gonna find on reselling. There is a huge debate amongst resellers about which is more important, good pictures or a good description, and I'm here to tell you it's neither. A buyer is never going to see your pictures or have the opportunity to not read your description if the item never comes up in front of them. The keys to that coveted visibility and appearing in front of the right buyer are keywords. So if you struggle with making a good eBay title, this video is for you. If you never seem to fill up the entire 80 character title space, this video is for you. If you can't quite fit your title into 80 characters, this video is for you. I am about to give you guys every one of my top tips to not only get your items seen, but sold. Alrighty. I am wasting no time in today's video, guys. We're gonna jump straight into it because I feel like this could be like a 3 or 4 part video series. The number one thing I'm gonna tell you in regard to writing eBay titles and using keywords is to stop writing your eBay titles for humans. We all love to kind of poke fun at sites like Wish and Temu and Amazon for their ridiculous cluttered titles. It just seems like a hodgepodge of words. Some of those words describe the item, but some of them don't. There is definitely a method to their madness, and you can utilize the same strategies to get your items sold as well. If you are thinking that your title needs to be a sentence, needs to be grammatically correct, you're thinking about it all wrong. Think about it this way instead. eBay is allowing you 80 characters to cram in absolutely anything you think a buyer could ever search for to find your item, but you only get 80 characters. You see why you would never put in pretty dress? A buyer's not gonna search for that. So within those 80 characters, make sure every single one of them counts, and instead of writing that title for a human to read, write it for a search engine to crawl. eBay has described to us over and over again that they have a search engine within their site. They have what is called the best match algorithm, and your keywords and your title is the very first thing they're going to search to see if your item comes up as the best match for what a buyer is searching for. Basically, instead of looking at it as a title of a book or something that should be eye-catching to a buyer, consider that you have 80 characters under which to put every single term a buyer's gonna use to search for your item. Does that change your perspective some? I would say the average word is about 7 characters, and eBay has been specific with us that the first 5 words of the title are the most important. So definitely don't wait until the last few characters to put in something super important like the brand of a garment or the model number of an electronic. If you can put the most important items within the first 5 words, that's definitely gonna help you out. As seasoned resellers, we use a lot of acronyms that the general public just doesn't use. Buyers may know terms like NWT means new with tags, or they may not, but the chances of them understanding what GUC means, guys, before I was a reseller, I thought someone was trying to say that their item was Gucci. I'm not even kidding. Good use condition, that does not belong in your title, and it's truly only going to confuse your buyers. Directly underneath the eBay title, eBay says whether or not the item is pre-owned or new without box. It is right there. So try to shy away from using acronyms like NIB, NWT, EUC, GUC, NWOT. It's just too much. And if we go back to my very first tip, it is not something anyone would ever search for. I'm not going to go search for a black J. Crew dress EUC. It's never going to happen. I'm never typing that in. You are in essence taking one of those 80 characters I gave you to only put in words that are searchable by a buyer, and you just gave away 3 of them. Stop. Don't do that. Along the same lines of unnecessary acronyms, I have to bring up unnecessary characters. You don't need that fire emoji, I promise. No emojis, please. Stop putting in the emojis or anything else that, again, a buyer is not searching for. You don't need to say gorgeous in the title. You may think the dress is very pretty, but a buyer is not using that term to search for the dress. No unsearchable words or emojis. I wonder what even happens if you type in like the smiley face emoji into the eBay search bar. Am I gonna get a list of all of the titles that has a smiley face or a heart or flames. It's a very outdated practice. Just don't do it. While we're talking about acronyms though, I do want to point out that there are some words that you can save yourself some of those 80 characters if you will simply abbreviate them. eBay will search your abbreviation as if it is the full word. One of those is vintage. You can shorten that to VTG and save yourself 4 characters. I promise you every character matters when you are building an eBay title. You can abbreviate size to simply SZ. OEM means original equipment manufacturer, and that's pretty standard abbreviation across the industry. MCM means mid-century modern, and it will search that way. A lot of sellers have asked me, Rachel, do you include defects in the title? The answer is kind of yes and no, but I will tell you it's more yes. If it is a major defect, it needs to be in the title. I recently listed and sold a DVD player, you'll see in this video later, and I wrote in the title, no remote. That is a flaw. The last thing I wanted was for the buyer to receive this and say, hey, I didn't get the remote. I want to be able to point out that it was in the description, it was in the item specifics, and it was in the title. We all know buyers don't read the title. If it's stained, if it has a hole, if it's untested, if it is something major, include it in the title. That is my opinion. That is how I work my business. Let me know in the comments if you differ from that, if you have a strict no flaws in the title policy. It's always interesting to see how other sellers run their business as well. One thing that I do see that I would leave out would be the wording as is. Nothing is truly sold as is because eBay's money back guarantee will always side with the buyer. So technically nothing is ever as is. You will not ever get a refund or a return on eBay. So probably leave out the terms as is. One of my favorite keywords to include in an item would be the time period that it was manufactured, or maybe even the time period that it's meant to evoke if it's a reproduction piece. You don't have to just stick with vintage or antique. You can say things like Edwardian, retro, Y2K. I have even used the term disco to describe a really cool gold belt that I sold from the 70s. Items from the 50s can often be described as atomic. Mid-century modern is a good term, again using MCM or just mid-century. Sometimes I will even include 70s, 80s, or 90s. You don't have to put 1990s or anything like that. Just type in 90s. If I'm looking for a hot pink 90s dress, then that's what I'm gonna use in the search is 90s, 90s. I've even seen cool items sell with retro or rad in the title. Get creative when it comes to describing the time period that your item was manufactured, and if space in your title allows, include it as a keyword. I feel like I could do an entire video just on this next part, and that is style. And I'm not talking about the cut of a garment. I'm talking about some really trendy keywords, thank you Pinterest, that you may not even realize exist. Rockabilly is a term that applies to a specific style and fashion. Many people are familiar with what rockabilly looks like. When I say it, you get a vision of a girl in a rockabilly outfit or a guy dressed up with his leather jacket. You know what I mean when I say rockabilly. But do you know what I mean when I say cottagecore? That is a very trendy word. In the last 90 days, 2,200 items have sold on eBay that included the word cottagecore as a keyword in their title. Buyers are searching for that. I asked a good friend of mine, Mary Garcia of The Merchants here on YouTube, Instagram, and whatnot. Definitely give her a follow. I'm including all of her links down below in the description. I love the keywords she uses. So I asked her to help me make a list of these styles, and I'm just gonna flash pictures of basically what those look like for you guys. But again, let me know if you would be interested in seeing an entire video just on these core words, because I feel like we could go on for days. Here's what we came up with: rockabilly, cottagecore, grannycore, coastal granny, Barbiecore, fairycore, gorpcore. That one is so crazy. She said it was basically granola, like Patagonia brand. Normcore, which is anything basic. That's a hilarious one. Regency core, cybercore, punk, goth, indie, kidcore, dopamine dressing. Guys, it's anything that just raises, I guess, your serotonin, your dopamine, and just makes you happy to look at these colors. Dopamine dressing. I like dopamine decor. That's definitely how I decorate my house. Colorful, vibrant, bright colors everywhere. Guys, that is a huge list, and we've barely scratched the surface. All of these are keywords that sellers just like you are using to sell their items while some of ours sit. I asked asked Mary if she had any other keyword tips she wanted to share with us, and she said one major thing would be to use keywords like that, like the core and the style. Use them as if you would use a hashtag on any other social media. In doing so, you'll draw in an audience that otherwise may not have seen the item. You could describe a granny sweater as vintage, but you're going to expose it to an entirely different audience if you describe it as granny core. She also wanted to note if it's already in the item specifics, then you don't need to write it in the title because it's already searchable. And she is full on board with making the grammar police cringe. Do not put slashes or dashes or commas or any punctuation in your title. She agrees it should be one big random run-on sentence, if you will, or maybe not even a sentence of those searchable words and phrases. Mary's last piece of advice was to use all 80 characters. I could not agree more. And the more you do that, the more you will come to realize that when you're just writing out a title, you look down and you're at 80 characters. It just starts to come naturally when you start filling up all 80 characters every time you write a title. The more I thought about some of those core and style keywords, I started to think about how many items I have that would also benefit from a keyword that is a costume. Let's say you have a striped long sleeve men's sweater. Well, we're coming up on Halloween. Could it benefit you to add a word like Freddy Krueger to your title? You can always take it off after the holidays, and honestly, I would recommend that you do, because if you have, let's say, a beautiful Peter Pan collar black dress and you put Wednesday Addams in the title, maybe you'll sell it before Halloween, but if it comes around March and someone is just looking for a cool black dress, but you described it as very Wednesday Addams, they're probably not buying your dress. So consider if there are any clothing pieces that you have that could be considered character specific and potentially something someone would dress up as, and include those keywords. Like, would you ever put a top hat on eBay without including the word Abraham Lincoln? And thinking about Halloween specific got me to thinking about holiday specific. And guys, one year, and I recommended it here on the channel, I took every green piece of clothing or thing, accessory that I had in my store, and I added the word St. Patrick. I did this a good 4 to 6 weeks out from St. Patrick's Day because people start planning, and I was surprised the number of items that sold with that keyword St. Patrick. I couldn't tell you the number of times I have searched for Valentine's Day dress. If you have a red dress, a red top, a pink top or pants, guys, add the word Valentine's Day, something with hearts all over it, maybe Kate Spade or Betsy Johnson. Consider how that would correlate to upcoming holidays. And like I say, about 6 weeks, maybe further out for some items, Christmas or New Year's, start plugging those keywords in. If you have a very sparkly sequin covered dress, you have to, in fourth quarter, include New Year's in that title because we're searching for New Year's dresses. If I had champagne bottle earrings, and I do own a pair of those, I'm going to include New Year's in the title. Just don't forget, once the holiday has passed, to go in and change those keywords, because buyers are so susceptible to suggestion. And if you have suggested it's a New Year's dress, it's not gonna sell at Easter time. Another piece of advice I have would be to look for any type of artist marking or signature on the item. If it's actual artwork or even if it's jewelry, be sure you're turning it around and looking to see on jewelry. If you can find the maker's mark, you write that as signed. So in the title, you would want it to say Chanel earrings signed, if it actually says Chanel there. I realize that many of you jewelry resellers probably know that, but before I was a reseller, I didn't understand what that meant. I thought it literally had to mean that the artist signed the piece. It just means that it has the maker's mark. I hope I helped somebody with that tip. I wish someone had told me that when I first started reselling. I asked one more friend of mine, Danielle from Yard Sales and Dreams, here on YouTube and on Instagram. Please follow her also. My friend's links are down in the description, you guys. These two women are fantastic at searching out vintage. I know a lot of the people here on my channel appreciate vintage. You would love both of their channels. But I asked Danny to give me a couple of her best keyword tips, and here's what she came up with. Her number one tip is to think like your buyer. What type of terms would you use to search for the item? I remember my sister describing this really cool clock that my parents had when we were growing up to her husband, and he was able to get on eBay and search for that clock, and he found it. He did not know the maker of the clock. He literally just used the description she had given him to find the clock. So think like that type of buyer, especially if it is a vintage item. What do you think that someone would type in order to find your item? Be sure that that is in your your title. Danny is also seconding everything we said about making sure the most relevant words are first. Those words, she says, include the brand, the manufacturer, and the model number. This next tip from Danny makes so much sense. It is so simple, but it is so often overlooked. She says, don't forget to include what the item actually is. That's so right. We can get so involved in describing the bowl or coffee cup or table or radio that we don't include that word. She said, don't forget to include that it's a bowl. It's a chair, it's a radio. Put that in the title because your item category is not always going to include that word. You may just be listed under dishes, for instance. You need to include that it's a bowl. Danny's last piece of advice is something I myself need to work on, so I'm so glad that I asked these two women to collaborate with me on this. She says, read your title back. You don't know how many times I've been embarrassed to be revising a listing or looking over an offer and realize that something is misspelled. Guys, there are whole websites that are dedicated to searching eBay spelling errors for high-end luxury items like Louis Vuitton spelled wrong, where you can get a good deal because someone just didn't know how to spell it, or fat fingers, or you didn't have the time or the effort to proofread. I am guilty of it too. Listen to Danny's advice and read your title back to yourself. Does it sound right? Does it make sense? Does it describe the item well? Is it free of errors? I thought the very best way to explain exactly how I write my titles to you guys would be to show you some of my titles. So we're gonna go over a few items that I have listed, but many items that have sold, because I find those must have been effective titles and I must have had some good keywords in there. So we're gonna look at my titles and my keywords on a few different categories and several different items. But stick around until the end of the video, because at the end of the video, I'm gonna go over what you don't want to include in your title, what is absolutely not allowed. But first, let's check out those titles. We're gonna be discussing several different categories here. The first one is home decor and home goods. This brass lamp that I have listed, I have brass, cast metal, and marble Hollywood Regency single table lamp base L&L WMC. Let's break that down because there's a lot there. First, I included the type of metal. It is brass, cast metal, and marble. I did not include commas there. They're absolutely unnecessary. Hollywood Regency describes the style. L&L WMC is the brand, although I don't feel like it's a brand that people are hunting and searching for. I feel like in this particular piece, what they would be searching for and why they would want to buy this is because it is brass, because it has marble, and because the style is Hollywood Regency. So that is why all of those would be my most important words, and they are loaded in the front of the title. Next up, I have these amazing lights. I have sold 2 strands of these with this title. This is the last strand that I have left. VTG for vintage, rare, and I'm not a huge proponent of using the word rare unless it fits. You cannot find these very often. So I do include the word rare here. Noma is the brand. Blow mold, happy, smiley faces, party, patio, light string set. So the word smiley, let's focus on that for just a second. Smile is within the word smiley, so if people typed in smile, this would still pop up. So any shortened version of a word is gonna pop up if you put the longer word in the title. So I wouldn't need to put smile and smiley face. These just sold. I used Magnalite as the brand. Is very important. That is why someone would buy this. Think of that. Put why they would buy it as your first 5 words. Okay, so it's a Magnalite 6-piece, and then from there I want to include the different sizes, because if someone is searching for a 1 quart, a 2 quart, a 5 quart, I want those to pop up. Now I could have put 1, 2, 5 quart, but I kind of felt like that ended up looking like 125 quart. So I did separate that. There is a little bit of redundancy here, but that's okay. Dutch oven, because if you're just searching for that piece, I want it to pop up. Wagner Ware 4682, that is a model number that is on the bottom, and it is aluminum. When I'm selling vintage clothing, I like to include, if the item is single stitch, vintage single stitch double-sided. That is important. If a t-shirt has an all-over print, if it's sublimation, all of those are things that are gonna sell your item faster. The fact that this was double-sided definitely needed to be in the front of the title. Caribbean Soul, Mermaid, Pirate, t-shirt, and then also the word tea, because I find that people spell those completely different. I didn't include T-E-E and then shirt because shirt is already included in the word tea. So I put t-shirt, tea, blue. Here's an example of including a deficiency or a fault in the title. 1974 Hasbro G.I. Joe Devil of the Deep set adventure team incomplete vintage retro. I want a buyer to know before they even click on this, this is an incomplete set. Everywhere I have detailed what this thing is missing. Guys, this sold for, I think I got $220. It was in my last what sold video, but I got right around $200 plus shipping out of this thing. And the buyer never would have seen it had the keywords not been correct. Devil of the Deep is the title of the set on this one. Oh, I really like this one. I like this for a couple different reasons. I bought this purse from my friend Mary, who collabed with me on this video. Vintage Cruel. I don't know if I'm ever saying that right. Hand embroidered folk, boho, Art Deco, floral. Do you see all of those are, again, just those style keywords? Linen, purse, handbag. I included the word purse and handbag because buyers search for both. I have seen shoulder bag, purse, handbag. There are so many different ways to describe a purse or a dress or a skirt. Include those in your title if you feel like it's something that your buyer would be searching for. I sold over $1,000 worth of these tiles with this title. Lot of 20. That's the first thing out the gate, is I need you to know that you're getting 20 of these because there were lots of competing listings, but in my listing you were going to receive 20 of them. So that is, again, why you would buy mine over someone else's. Lot of 20 vintage ceramic wall tiles, 4 1/4 inch, white with speckle, reclaimed, glossy. It tells you literally everything. There's a reason you wouldn't even have to read the description of this. That tells you everything you need to know in less than 80 characters. This one was pretty cool because this is a good example of researching comps is going to sometimes bring about keywords for you. Vintage 3-tiered sewing knitting basket, wicker bamboo Chinese wedding storage. I had never heard of a Chinese wedding basket until I went to list this one. And when I searched for sold comps, everyone had Chinese wedding basket. I Googled it to make sure it fit, and sure enough, this is what a Chinese wedding basket looks like. So I included it as a key. When you're searching for the comps, see those odd words that keep appearing in other people's titles and see if it fits your item. If it does, that could be what gets it sold. Here is that no remote example on electronics. I'm going to include the brand, the item, the model number, all of those things, whether or not it's tested. So important. Sanyo DVD player VCR combo, video cassette recorder, DVW 5000, no remote, tested. Again, I feel like this keyword video could be like 12 different videos. We've really only started to scratch the surface, but I hope I'm teaching you something. What I want you to walk away from here knowing also is one of my most important tips, keywords you're not allowed to use, because I've seen people use these. It's a good way to get your listing taken down or your account suspended if you are a repeat offender of eBay's policy on this. Let's say you have the coolest purse and it has green and red stripes on it, and you think, man, this thing looks like it could be inspired by Gucci. I'm gonna put Gucci-like in the title. No, you're not. No, you're not. You are not allowed to use terms such as like, replica, dupe, inspired by. eBay is so strict about this policy that they won't even allow two brands or a brand that is not the same as the brand in your item specifics to be in your title. I know this from listing a pair of Cole Haan shoes with a Nike Air insole. I was not allowed to include the word Nike in a Cole Haan listing. And that is to prevent people from listing something and saying it is Nike-like or Prada-like. Trust me, we all know from going to Poshmark, nothing is more annoying than typing in exactly the brand you're looking for and seeing a flood of listings that have nothing to do with that. The main differentiator there is that Poshmark will search the item description as well, and eBay can do that, but that is only in a filtered search, and most buyers do not do that. Most buyers will not include the description. There is an option for you to include the description in your search if you ever want to do that, but I'm telling you, buyers don't even read the description. Let alone do they know that they can filter by searching the description or where to do something like that. So don't rely on your description in eBay for search, but in Poshmark, that definitely will work. But circling back around to why we started talking about Poshmark in the first place is that if I type in Gucci on Poshmark, I get so many listings that aren't Gucci. Maybe they're in search of listings. It just happens to have Gucci somewhere in the description, and eBay is not going to allow you to do that. You will get in trouble. The eBay police police will get you. eBay actually has an entire policy on their website about manipulating keywords and search titles, but I just want to run through a few key points in that policy with you. One thing that is against their policy is manipulating search results to gain unfair visibility of a listing. Again, don't write the word free or Gucci-like or whatever that you would be manipulating the search results. Don't do it. Using keywords that are not directly related to the item for sale is not allowed. All words in the listing need to be accurate and refer only to the item for sale. If the item is an accessory for or compatible with another item, fits for, compatible with should be stated before the name of the compatible item. So don't write iPhone 6 compatible headphones. You need to write headphones compatible with iPhone 6. Does that make sense? Because eBay is searching, again, those front keywords are so important. They need to know that the item is before the word fits or compatible with within their search. You may think that you can take advantage of that policy, but you can't. However, fit for or compatible with is not allowed before the brand names of jewelry, clothing and accessories, or universally compatible item. If it's universally compatible, don't try to slap some brand name in there that's going to get you better exposure. Listings that make comparisons with other products are not allowed. So don't try compare to or compares with. You can't use that on eBay. Listings that promote other listings are not allowed. Listings can't include keywords with question marks, as this could be misleading for buyers. If any item details are unclear or unknown, they should be left out of the listing. Oh, I just stepped on someone's toes because I've seen many of us, and I even have some listings in eBay that have a question mark, and I've seen a lot of sellers say, and I'm not dogging any of these sellers, like I'm telling you, I am just reading that. I have seen so many people write and say to write antique question mark. And if we think that that's going to get us out of a return because the item turned out to not be antique and we clearly said we weren't sure, no, eBay is saying leave that out as a keyword. If you're not sure that that keyword applies, don't think that adding a question mark limits your liability of saying that it applied to that item. You clearly know that writing antique gave you an advantage or you wouldn't have included it in the first place. So unless you can attest to that really fitting that item, leave it out. Anytime we discuss eBay's policies, there are always going to be some hiccups, and someone will say, well, I've seen this happen on eBay. I've seen that happen. I've also seen people speed down the highway at 100 miles an hour. It's still against the rules, you guys. They're not going to catch everyone. The idea and the point and purpose of this video is that they don't catch you because you were not breaking the rule in the first place, because you learned about it here on the channel. If you watched the video this far and for some crazy reason you're still not subscribed, let me give you one last reason to subscribe. Guys, this Louis Vuitton wallet, we are less than 4,900 subscribers away from giving away this Louis Vuitton wallet. It's amazing. I still have a bit of refinishing to do on her, but oh my gosh, this is a gorgeous wallet. It's vintage Louis Vuitton, and when I hit 20,000 subscribers, I'm giving her away to one of you guys. Again, we are less than 4,900 away. Like, who gives away Louis Vuitton when they hit 20K? This girl, all right? So be sure that you're subscribed. Thank you so much for watching. God bless. And remember, treat your business like your business.